Numbers don't lie. The film doesn't lie. So why is Shedeur Sanders still being overlooked for Deshaun Watson? Because what's happening behind the scenes changes everything.
They are seeing right now in practice, and what I actually saw on the first day of voluntary minicamp that was open to the media was I saw what looked to me like a quality starting quarterback out there in Deshaun Watson, someone who had done the job before, understands it, operated efficiently. He was, and I wrote that day, that he won day one. And then he came back on the days that were closed to us.
Imagine this. You spend your entire life chasing one dream, one moment, one stage in front of the whole world. You throw until your arm gives out. You watch film until your eyes burn. You silence every voice that ever told you that you were not built for this. And then you make it. The NFL, the biggest stage in football. But here is the twist that nobody saw coming. The team that drafted you is seriously thinking about benching you before your career even starts. Not because of your talent, not because of your effort, not because of anything you did wrong, but because of one man's highlight reel, Deshaun Watson. And right now, the entire NFL world is stunned. But stay with me, because the numbers, the footage, the real story, it changes everything.
Put them up there yourself. Look at this. Who was better recently, right? 7 games, 1-6. 7 games, 3-4. Look at this shit. Passing yards, 1,100. Passing yards, 1,400. Yards per game, 164, 175. Touchdown passes, 5. Touchdown passes, 7. Now, y'all know the old saying, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Look, interceptions, 3, right? Interceptions, 10. Why did Shedeur Sanders have 10 interceptions? Can we please explain that to me? I think we all know why Shedeur Sanders had 10 interceptions. Because y'all wide receivers are hot garbage. That's why Shedeur had 10 interceptions.
There is a debate burning through every locker room, every sports bar, and every comment section in America right now. Cleveland Browns, 2 quarterbacks, 1 job. On one side, a veteran, Deshaun Watson, a man with years of NFL experience, a man who showed up to voluntary minicamp and reportedly looked like, in the words of those who were there, a quality starting quarterback. On the other side, Shedeur Sanders, a young man who walked into Boulder, Colorado and turned the entire college football world upside down. A young man who carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who always knew his moment was coming. But here is the question nobody wants to answer honestly. Are the Cleveland Browns really about to do this to Shedeur Sanders? Let us talk about it. To truly understand why this moment hits so differently, you have to go back to Boulder, back to when Shedeur Sanders was rewriting what it meant to be a college quarterback. People were physically making the trip out to Colorado just to see this man play, not hear about him, see him. And what they witnessed was something that does not come along every generation. Precision, poise, a feel for the game that you simply cannot teach. When Shedeur locked in, when he entered what fans were calling Brady mode, there was nothing he could not do on a football field. And the stats backed it up completely. Over his last 7 games, Shedeur Sanders threw for 1,400 passing yards, 7 touchdown passes, an average of 175 yards per game. Now compare that to Deshaun Watson's last 7 NFL games, 1,100 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 164 yards per game. Men lie, women lie, but numbers do not lie. But then someone always brings up the interceptions. 10 interceptions for Shedeur, and people throw that number around like it is a weapon. But here's what they are not telling you. Look at who Shedeur was throwing to. His receivers were dropping passes at a rate that would collapse any quarterback's numbers. Clean throws, perfectly placed balls, hitting hands and falling straight to the ground. Shedeur was doing his job. His weapons just weren't doing theirs. Now flip it around. Deshaun Watson had 3 interceptions in those 7 games. People wave that around like it proves something. But here's the context they always leave out. Watson played behind a better offensive line than Shedeur had. His protection was stronger, his situation was more stable, and still, with all of that advantage, Watson was being outproduced by a rookie working with far less. The sack numbers tell the same story. Shedeur took 23 sacks. Watson took 33 with a better line.
Day one. And then he came back on the days that were closed to us, and he had ended up earning the starting reps. And he was going first based on what they had seen. And so what I've been hearing is that he emerged from that voluntary minicamp ahead of Shedeur Sanders. And at this point right now, he has the inside track to win the starting job. And I just tweeted after that, after I wrote that breaking news, after that I just said, if that's going to be the case, then you might as well just go and declare him that sooner than later, as soon as possible.
Let that breathe for a second. And the rushing numbers? Shedeur racked up 169 rushing yards, averaging 9.3 yards per scramble. And Shedeur Sanders is not a running quarterback. That is not his game. Watson, 148 rushing yards, 6.3 yards per scramble. These are not opinions. These are documented facts sitting right there on the stat sheet for anyone willing to actually look. So why does it feel like the Browns are leaning the other direction? Here is where it gets real. A reporter who attended the open voluntary minicamp came back with a story that set the entire internet on fire. He said Watson looked sharp, efficient, like a starting quarterback who had done the job before and understood the assignment. And then came the words that shook Shedeur fans everywhere. Watson had earned the starting reps. He was going first in practice. He had the inside track on the starting job. The reporter even suggested that if this was going to be the Browns' direction, they should just declare Watson the starter as soon as possible, so the first-team offense could start building chemistry before 2026. And just like that, the narrative shifted. This was no longer about who was better on paper. This was about who looked better in a closed practice nobody could see. But here is the thing about that. Practice reps, controlled sessions, no real defense, no dropped passes from shaky receivers, no interceptions from the hands of teammates who cannot hold on to the ball. How many legends looked ordinary in May before they exploded when it actually mattered? And how many veterans looked polished in minicamp before falling apart under real pressure? Let us go back to the film, because the film tells a completely different story. When you go back and watch Watson's actual game film from the 2024 NFL season, real games, real pressure, real stakes, what you see is not the picture that minicamp clips are painting. Casual fans can see it, scouts can see it, and anyone being truly honest can see it too. There is a clear and visible gap between what Shedeur Sanders is and what Deshaun Watson has been. Shedeur has that rare combination of football IQ, arm talent, and competitive fire that franchises spend decades searching for. He walked into Colorado and transformed that entire program. He walked through the NFL draft process and commanded respect at every single stage. And now he walks into Cleveland, into a situation with limited receiving weapons, questionable protection, and a veteran breathing down his neck, and people want to judge him based on May practice reps? This young man waited his entire life for this shot.
Watching greatness transform right before my eyes. That Deshaun Watson was going to be starting over Shedeur Sanders, bro. I ain't lying. Because it's clear as day, that's what they finna do. I'm convinced, bro. That's what they finna do. I don't care what nobody say. They finna start Deshaun Watson, man.
Can you even imagine being Shedeur Sanders right now? Knowing what you are capable of, knowing what the numbers say, knowing what every person who watched you play in Boulder watched happen with their own eyes, and being told that a veteran who statistically underperformed you in almost every major category might be handed the starting job because he looked good in a voluntary minicamp? That is not just frustrating, that is heartbreaking. But here is where the story turns towards something bigger, because this debate, this fire, is exactly what Shedeur Sanders needs. The greatest quarterbacks in NFL history were not handed anything. They were forged in doubt, carved out of adversity, made legendary by the exact moments that tried to break them. Tom Brady was a sixth-round pick who was not supposed to start. Patrick Mahomes sat behind a veteran before the Kansas City Chiefs finally trusted him with the keys. And when they got their chance, they never looked back. Shedeur Sanders already has the talent. He already has the work ethic. He already has the game film that proves exactly what he can do when his teammates hold up their end. What he is building right now, in this pressure, in this controversy, in this moment where the whole NFL world is watching and waiting, is the chip on his shoulder that is going to fuel the next decade of his career. The Browns may be debating who starts in 2025, but the football world is going to be talking about Shedeur Sanders for the next 15 years. Because when you watch the real film, the actual game film, not the May minicamp clips, you see a quarterback who is built different, a quarterback who plays with patience and precision that cannot be faked, a quarterback who, given the right weapons and the right opportunity, is going to make every single person who slept on him look back and shake their head. So, here is the final question. Is the NFL world stunned by Deshaun Watson's viral film? Sure, for now, but history has a way of correcting itself. And when Shedeur Sanders finally gets that starting job, when he steps onto that field under the lights and shows the world exactly who he is, nobody is going to be talking about minicamp raps. They are going to be talking about the moment a generational talent refused to let a city, a situation, or a false narrative define him. The numbers already told the truth. The film already showed the way. Now it's just a matter of time. And Shedeur Sanders, he's got all the time in the world. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Who do you think should be the starting quarterback in Cleveland? Let me know. And if you believe in Shedeur Sanders, share this video because the people need to see the real numbers.